Welcome everybody to I, the Serpent Tarot, for another pick a card reading. Today's reading is all about your star quality. What is it about you that makes you really stand out, draw attention? What is it that could take you, if you want, onto the world stage? Or if that's not quite what your ambition is, how do you actually become the center of attention or the person, the go-to person in your friendship circle, your community circle, your organization, whatever it might be? This is all about you. It's a reading that will be hopefully uplifting. It's meant to show you what your particular talents are, the energy and personality that you have, and how that will draw people to you, and how you can use that to leverage being really a star in your life in whatever way that is that you want to be. So we'll probably, because of the structure of the thing, be talking about the more major end of the scale of this for people who do want some form of public profile. But you can certainly scale that down to something in your friendship or family circle if you aren't really wanting to be on the world stage, but you would like to be recognised and have acknowledgement for your qualities and your talents and your achievements on other levels. So we're going to look at what are some of the qualities that you have that are particularly star-like. We're going to look at how that's working for you at the moment and how you can enhance that. Then we're going to have a bit of a look about who would be your biggest fans or supporters in terms of demographic or types of areas that they come from, or types of personalities that might particularly see you as a star. A little bit about timing, and finish up with some advice from a music icon. So hopefully it's going to be fun. That's what this is meant to be. A bit of fun, but nevertheless also a bit of a shout out to you about your star quality. So what I wanted to do in the way of picking the pile for you, the reading for you, is I'm actually going to use a particular deck for each reading. So for pile 1, I'm going to use the Crystal Unity Tarot. For pile 2, the Movie Tarot. And for pile 3, the Cute and Creepy Tarot. And I've taken out the star cards for each of those as a kind of a, excuse me, visual and sort of colour and sort of energy level thing to hopefully help you really tune into which reading is right for you. And of course, if you feel drawn to more than one, go to more than one. There might be a number of star qualities across different readings that are appropriate for you. And just in case the different sort of energy of the particular tarot packs isn't what helps you choose, for those who like chakra and colour energy, I have the throat chakra placement stone for pile 1, the heart chakra for pile 2, and the third eye chakra stone for pile 3. So that may be also something that draws you. As I often say when I use the chakra placement stones, that doesn't mean this is all about the heart, this is all about communication and so forth. I don't know what cards are under here, and I don't even know if these cards, when I shuffle the deck, will come up in the reading. I've just used the particular cards from that deck to give you that way of choosing. So hopefully you're familiar with all these decks from my readings before, and that may help you choose. But whatever way works for you, if you need to pause the video to choose, then by all means do that and meditate on it. When you know which reading or readings you want to go to, as always, the timestamp information is in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. So to start with, we have a number of cards to give a bit of a sense about the sorts of star qualities that you have. And when we've sort of gone through that particular picture, we'll use the tarot, as I said, to have a look at where you are at the moment with it. You're an interesting type of star, I have to say, pile 1, because you are 2 layers. It looks to me as though the first level on which you bring people in and you have star quality is around being fun, vital, friendship, drawing people in. And there's definitely a sense of potentially music, good times, that kind of energy around you. I wouldn't be surprised if many people who've come to this, are singers or musicians in some way. And I'll get to that particularly around the wizard area as I talk this through. So there's definitely a sense here of drawing in people by a kind of vitality and a sense of being really unique and different. I think you're probably very stylish. I think you probably are a bit ahead of your time in terms of what you wear and what you do, and even the music. You'd probably be someone with some of the psychic ability that the Archangel Haniel here is indicating. Knows who's going to be popular, knows what the trends are going to be, particularly around music or anything that has to do with individuality. So it could also be things like fashion and so forth as well. So there's that side of you, and I think you draw a lot of people in on that level. People just really enjoy you, and they see you as very creative with the artist. And I do think many of you will have an artistic side, and if it isn't being represented in music, it'll be represented in some other form of probably performing art, but it could also be, painting or potentially writing with Mary Shelley there. But what I'm really thinking with Mary Shelley, it's that the moon cycles, the psychic ability in the wizard is underneath everything. The thing that makes you unique is that you actually straddle the very light energy of the friendship, joy, vitality, and the depths. And there is a lot of depth to what you do. With the wizard there's a lot of knowledge that you bring to something, whether it's literally spiritual knowledge or belief in that sense, or whether it's knowledge on some other level. When I saw this at first, I was thinking of what they talk about with some sort of guitarists and people like that they're wizards of music, they're wizards of their instrument, whatever their instrument is. There's a sense of a mastery that feels older than even this life around it, and a very unique way of doing things. So showing my age, my vintage, I think of things like people talk about the Edge from U2 as being a bit of a sort of wizard with the guitar because he was so different in the way that he used his instrument, or someone like Jimmy Page you sort of think about as well from Led Zeppelin, those sorts of people. So I'm not saying you have to be a guitarist, though some of you may be. What I'm saying is that sort of energy of taking something forward, using instruments, whatever your instrument is, and it doesn't have to be a musical instrument, whatever your creative energy is in a very unique way, but there's a depth to it and there's a connection. This is why I feel that you do know what's coming. You're way ahead of your time. Mary Shelley was way ahead of her time. She was probably one of the first women to write a horror novel. Frankenstein was one of the iconic horror novels. So I don't think that means, again, you could be a writer. If you're a writer, that would be a very good sign that you're going to really stand out from the pack and do something very new. Whatever you do, you're going to do something unique and new. That's definitely in you, but people are going to enjoy it as well too. But there's a little bit of darkness underneath all of it. So Billie Holiday, the soulful sort of singer, underneath the technical brilliance was a really strongly beating heart, a sense of the human condition. So there's something in this, and there's something like you see the darker side of things, the shadow side of things, and you're not afraid of it because you've mastered it in some way, and your art will bring it out. But it's like that's under the surface. You're like those pictures of an iceberg where at the top there's the iceberg and then underneath there's the massive amount of sort of, what's holding it up, so to speak. You see those sort of graphics of that. So the sort of fun, electric, new, very clever, very skilled sort of energy that you bring to whatever you do, underneath that is just so much depth. So whether this is for someone, and I do feel many people here, and as I said in the introduction, I'm going to talk largely in the almost performing or sort of leadership, or that end of the scale where you're really a star that's being seen. I do feel that for people at that end, if that's what you want and that's where you're heading to or where you are, then it is going to be that people will sense that underneath everything, underneath this art and this unique way of doing things is a lot of depth. Some other examples of this, so someone like David Bowie, I often bring him up because I feel he's a really good example of someone who had a lot of spiritual understanding, a lot of knowledge and so forth, and then he really did a very different way of doing things and he kept reinventing himself. But there was certainly, if you look into the lyrics of his songs, there's a lot there about the shadow, there's a lot there about the spiritual and so forth. Probably where you'd be different from him is I do feel your outward persona is much more about friendship, much more about connection and so forth. He often had personas that were a little bit more detached. But I'm just trying to give some examples of people that are stars, that have that kind of energy to them. Or it's, if you think about pop culture, it's a bit like the energy of something like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where there is the friendship that's at the core of everything and the sort of psychic world in which they live, but then there's also this incredible strength and the things that are hidden, what's going on underneath. So that's the sense overall that I get. I get many of you will express it in some sort of musical or performing way, but you don't have to. If this is about being a star in an organisation, then your capacity to connect with everybody, but really understand what's going on underneath and find the really unique ways of dealing with it and expressing that in a way that people can accept and they find beautiful in a way is very important. The other thing to note here is the moon cycle. So I feel that you're someone who's very connected to the moon cycles. So later on when we're talking about timing, just bear that in mind. Think about if you start to track and watch what happens with you around the moon cycles, you may find that there are particular points where you have more expansive energy to be able to move your sort of star position forward. But that's just a specific thing, but I think it's helpful for you if you're looking, again, particularly maybe at connecting the depths of what you do to whatever your artistry is. It's very, very interesting. So let's use the tarot and let's ask where you're at the moment in your stardom journey. What's working, what maybe isn't working, where are you in really realising this vibrant, friendly, fun person with such depths? You know, when people actually start to look into the work that you produce. Okay, so for a start with the Ace of Pentacles, that tells me that you're kind of at the beginning of whatever the journey is that you want to do. Even if you have had some successes, it's really only the beginning. So whatever level you're at now, you're going to level up. That's definite. And with the Ace of Pentacles, any aces are blessings. So there is a blessing around this being able to be something that is materially real in your life. So if you are someone who wants to do something that is more creative, say, or will bring the spotlight to you, but you're at the moment only really just starting to look into that. If you're looking at building your skills, underneath you have far more skill that you're bringing in than you realise. But if you're at that beginning, this is suggesting that it is a good thing to think about. It is a good thing to work out what it would be to take that forward. For you, however, there is a little bit of a tension, I think. Part of this beginning that you want, I think you've known who you were from childhood with the Six of Cups there, that sense that you've been connected psychically to others and to who you were, and you were probably different in the schoolyard. You were probably you could have been one of the weird kids, as they used to talk about them. I mean, like you could have been just a little bit different to the norm, and I mean that in the most positive way. I don't mean that in any sort of, the kids that stand out, that are different, are often the ones that become the stars later on, because there is just something about them that is unique, and it's unmistakable, and it's there from the beginning. Though I do think you probably got on fine with kids, because I think people enjoy you. So if you had a little bit of issues around, schooling to start with, I think you sorted it through. But there's a sense you've known that you wanted to be on the stage in whatever form this means for you since you were a child. And I think you maybe even had some role models around you potentially. So I think some of you may come from artistic or performing families, or been around those sort of people in your development years. Now, what you've also had to deal with, and I think this is a bit more recent, is a very harsh critic around you, or maybe you've been your own harshest critic. There's a sense of being tied to, this could be if this is you with the Queen of Swords reversed, because the Queen of Swords is very precise, very intellectual, very demanding. If this is you and reversed, then you are possibly your own worst critic. So again, people probably don't realise this. They see the fun side, but those depths underneath, if you don't fully understand what they are, and you don't look into your own shadow, as with Mary Shelley up there, then that can become your own worst enemy. So there is a possibility that at the moment for pile one, there's a real opportunity or a real new idea that would really fit with something that you wanted to do for, since you were a child, but maybe you don't feel ready, maybe you don't feel like the wizard yet, that there's something in you that is that. It's like once you embrace what is different about you, unique about you, then you can move forward. Again, it's interesting that I thought of the edge from you too there, because I remember reading an interview with members from U2 saying that when they first started out, they didn't necessarily even know how to play their instruments. But in a weird way, that was a good thing, because then they weren't following all the norms. So, as they learnt that, they learnt it with their own particular style. So it's possible here that this is saying that you are precociously talented in some way, but you're not sure whether you've done all the sort of study that you needed to do or whatever. But underneath this, you actually have something that's very unique to you. And I suspect you've brought in whatever this talent is. And it doesn't have to be music. I just keep getting music for this, but it doesn't have to be. But music and musicians are a good example of it. It can be where you take your self-criticism as a limitation and you tie yourself up in knots a bit with the devil there. So I do think there is an energy here for you to get off your own back. It's really interesting. The Ten of Wands usually has a picture of somebody carrying something on their back if it's close to a Rider-Waite-Smith deck clone, and this is no different. So there is certainly that sense of laboring under something, and I'm feeling with it reversed that you just need to get off your own back. You just need to let that energy go, because there is a really positive opportunity coming through. It is possible for some, if this is indicating a lot of hard work and you've got somewhere, there is a risk here for some, and this is just very specific, that there could be an opportunity for you at the moment which you pay a bit of a price for. So this is just very specific. If this resonates for you, like a contractual deal that you go into. If that is the case, if you're about to sign a new contract for a new job or a new contract to produce music or whatever it might be, then make sure you check the fine print. Use the Queen of Swords energy positively for yourself, because there's still a lot of benefit potentially in this thing, but it's new. And what you don't want to do is get caught in a cycle of having to perform in a way that somebody wants you to, rather than what you want to do. So assess the opportunity on that level if that resonates for you. And if you do go forward with it, then make sure that you've got within the contract almost an escape clause for your artistic and individual integrity, because there's something potentially there. Okay, so let's get some more advice and some clarification on this for you from Spirit around what is some more advice around how to draw out your star quality. So we might get a little bit more information on what that energy is as well. Okay. So the Tower reverse is clarifying the Ace of Pentacles. So that does suggest that, it gives me again the sense that this is the beginning of something. It suggests to me for a start, it's almost like don't sweat it too much, because this opportunity, it might appear huge at this point in time, but it's just the beginning of a journey, and there's going to be incremental opportunities along the way for you to make decisions. That's why I think it's important, if you do have an opportunity right now, particularly if there's a contract in front of you, to look at almost the escape clauses, as I said, what are the points where you would decide, no, I need to sort of move into my own space, I need to detach from this, or I need to exercise certain liberties that I have put into that contract. So there's a sense here of this opportunity comes through quickly and you need to make a decision quite quickly. That's why it's important to understand the implications of that, because at some point, once you've got the foundations out of it, you will probably want to move on, because it's like a balancing. I'm seeing like scales. And at this point, it looks like an opportunity is a good thing to do. Like the weight is towards doing something, as long as you, as I say, have the escape clause ready. And you will need to make it, if you don't take up this fairly quickly, then that opportunity disappears. But it allows a foundation, but there's something about the energy of it, whether it's that you feel that you're limiting yourself too much, even with whatever you might do contractually, or whether there's just a very critical person around you. Whatever it is, in the longer term, to stay with this, it's like it balances in the opposite direction. It's like at a particular point you will need to move to do something else. So this, again, it doesn't have to be a contract for music or whatever, but that's a good example of this. It could be something in your career, it could be something in a community group, whatever this is. It could even be around friendships, where if you want to just be a star within your sort of friendship circle in some way, and recognize there is an opportunity at the moment, but if that's the case, there's someone who potentially can shift the balance of it. It's like there's a very critical person within the friendship circle, for instance, and they almost look like they're an arbiter of what is talent, what is going to be seen, and so forth. And if you stick by that for too long, it saps your strength. So there's just a warning in here for you, Pile 1, about take opportunities, take recognition, all of that sort of thing. If this person is not you being critical of yourself, it's someone who is an arbiter of taste in some way, who's at this point seen you as someone they want to connect with and seen you as someone who's got a future. They will give you a foundation, but you do need the escape clause, because eventually you're going to outgrow them in some way. Could even be a teacher. I'm getting for some of you, it could be that if you feel that you need to still work on your skills to bring out that wizardry that we saw before, there could be a teacher who's a bit of a hard taskmaster in some way, and they do give you the foundations, but at some point you're going to surpass them, or you're going to need to understand what that means when the sort of the student becomes the master sort of idea. So there's something in there for you. You have a lot of talent and a lot of depth, a lot more than you're possibly giving yourself credit for, and there is a real opportunity around you. If it hasn't happened yet, it's coming in soon, to start to explore something that you wanted to do since you were a child. But it's the first step on a much longer journey. And as I say, with the Tower reverse, I just think that's very positive here. I think it's saying that this is not the be-all and end-all, even if it feels like it is. It's just the first step in something. So as long as you retain your individuality, because remember, that was a big, big part of what makes you a star, the difference that you have and the depth that you have. Okay, so that's interesting. So let's have a bit of a look at what your fan base might be. So I'm going to use a couple of decks that are about personal qualities. So this could be particular people that come up. If you recognize people in this, that's fine. It might mean it's sort of closer to you. But I'm really looking for almost demographical information here. So I'm really, as I say, thinking in that end of being seen in the world in some way, or in your community, or sort of on a larger scale, and where the energies are that people are really going to respond to you. So wow, we've got 3 Chinese astrology. I'm actually going to pull another couple just because I don't want only Chinese astrology here. Okay, all right. So Chinese astrology, I am not a Chinese astrology expert, but a bit like sort of Western astrology, different sort of characteristics go with different signs. So we've got dragon, pig, and monkey. And so it could be worth looking up those signs, particularly if you're looking for particular people, to see if that's the case, or to just see what the energies are around those signs. Certainly there's a sense of mischief and that fun side there. I think with the monkey, I think with dragon, we're getting the kind of wizardry and all of that sort of energy, and a lot of power. Like, that suggests that there are powerful people, possibly the Queen of Swords energy there, who are likely to be on your side, in your camp, a fan of yours, and so forth. But power is always something you have to be careful with. And then pig energy as well. So these things, if you know particular people around you, that may be birth dates. It may also be times in your life where key things have happened. So the more recent timing in this might tell you something about when you've had leaps forward and people have started to see you. So it may be more about the years, and you can extrapolate forward as well too by adding 12 years to something. So 2016, 2028, and so forth. 2012, that's about 2024, and so forth. So they may be picking up particular timings where you draw people to you, and the energies there of the particular signs are worth thinking about. So if you were thinking of them as the energies around who you want to see your message, think in terms of messages around power, for instance, around the dragon. Think about what's fun and different and unique around the monkey, and so forth. But I do suggest you have a look up what those signs mean in Chinese astrology as well too, if you want to get a sense of the demographic, the sort of energies where people will respond to you. You're likely to get people who enjoy very witty, entertaining, clever talking. So if you are a musician, for instance, there's something clever and entertaining about what you do. That's what will draw people in. I think that's actually really good around a star energy. with Gemini, because I think there's almost, Geminis understand, they like to be entertained. So your entertaining thing is there, and they're going to be drawn to you the more entertaining and the more different you are. They like a sense of wit, that they also like the versatility. So once they start to see the depths as well, they're not going to be sort of scared away from that. They're going to be intrigued. So there's an energy around that. But I also think people who like diversity of presentation will be drawn to you as well, because Gemini, wears different masks. They will relate to that, and it's possible that there's a Gemini around you who is going to be key in all of this, a key cheerleader for you. We also have yellow. So yellow is the solar plexus chakra, so that's all about empowerment. It's interesting that it sort of fell with the dragon. I think that that's telling us that people who like to be empowered, people who like to see something that is unique and different and confident, will be drawn to you. There's a lot about the cheerful energy here and a lot about the confidence. So it again picks up that thing that you draw people in first through that fun, unique, clever side of you. But then there's the depths, and people start to sort of see that's part of what gives you the power and the depth for what you do. So I think you will draw people who either aspire to be confident and seen in the world, and who love really good wordplay and so forth, and who understand power and energies around shadow as well as fun. Or you will be drawing people who aspire to be like that, who want to be like you. So let's use another deck to get a little bit more that might be demographical information around your fans. Oops, that one wanted to come out. Okay. So firstly, I'd say from this that people around your family and friendship circle are going to probably be your first fans. They're probably going to be the people who really see and support you in some way, which is probably why we had the Six of Cups there. The sense of maybe from childhood, there's been a sense you've been the star in the family. People have enjoyed watching you perform, that kind of thing, if you are a performer, or they just really see what your talents are and they really support you. Children, there may be something about what you do that appeals to children in some way. So it could be, and like now I'm getting the sense with the Mary Shelley thing, something like, a Jim Henson with the Muppets, and then how that kind of became the movie Labyrinth. So that kind of connection of deeper messages with stuff that would potentially be also interesting for children. Or it could be that the very young at heart, I'm getting a sense the young at heart people might like what you do and be drawn to you in some way. Your fans are going to be very, very faithful. Once somebody finds you, they stick with you. And they see you sometimes as a bit of a guilty pleasure. I think you are going to be unique. You are going to be different. You're going to be against the grain in some way. And some people might think that following you is sort of like very different to following other people. The stardom that you have, might be sort of like there's something a little bit kind of almost, it's our gang and it's our secret and it's our thing. So what I am getting for some of you is that you have to watch that potentially as well too. Remember that we had the energy that you may need to move away from things. I don't think you're going to move away from your fans, but there may be a side that you have to balance here, where I think that you will probably reinvent yourself a number of times as you sort of become more and more the wizard. And so sometimes people may sort of like not want that shift. So there might be a bit of pushback that you've got to be aware of. Some of the people are going to love it because that Gemini energy is there. But if someone is seeing themselves in you and their lifestyle in you, and they really enjoyed what you did initially, then you may find that there's a little bit of a shift around that, or a little bit of a pushback around whatever it is that you're doing. Okay, so let's finish up with some timing information, some affirmations. So, and then, as I say, we'll get the advice from the music icon, which is very fitting for you because there's something about music here, even if it isn't literally what you're doing. So firstly, I'm going to get a couple of affirmations for you. Then I'm going to do a couple of cards around timing, just to get a sense about some key timing for you in developing your star quality. So the affirmations. Okay. Good things come to those who work their butt off. I think that's picking up the fact that you're at the beginning of this journey and whatever this journey is. And there is a lot of hard work to do and a lot of reinvention to do as you go through. But it is going to work out. You know, you have everything. You are the wizard, remember. You are the person who has those sort of skills, and you're very different and you have a lot of depth. But you really just have to put the work in, and you have to believe in yourself. If you believe that you can, you're halfway there. So that self-critic that might be there, turn that off. Just believe in what you can do. Just let things work out. You're going to shift and change a bit as you go through this and as you build your career, your stardom, whatever it is. But as long as you turn the self-critic off and you stay true to yourself and you stay true to the depths that you're trying to get to, then you're more than halfway there, I actually think. So given that, what's some timing around this for you? Okay, so it's not going to be too specific in some ways about timing because it says time will tell. And I think that might be picking up, I'm getting that that's picking up this first offer or opportunity that you have. And again, it's like, don't sweat it too much. It's okay. Incrementally, you'll work your way through that. And time will tell whether it's something you can stay and build with or whether it's something that you need to shift from over time. So just let that evolve, let that unfold. Just make sure, as I say, that you've got your capacity for liberation if you need it at some point. It's also saying in 2 to 3 years. So I think in 2 to 3 years, you will not only have worked out whether this potential opportunity that is either here with you now or coming in soon is the right sort of thing to continue with, or it may be when that starts to come to fruition and you really start to sort of double down on it. So there's around about a 2 to 3 year trajectory from here probably to start to get the real fans coming in and the real recognition in whatever form that is. As I say, it doesn't have to be as a performer or something like that. It could be a social influencer, it could be in your organisation, whatever it is. Say it was in an organisation, and I think you really start to get recognition and leadership roles in 2 to 3 years' time. But how this potential opportunity that's around you at the moment works out, time will tell. So there's the promise of something in 2 to 3 years' time, but what else happens in that period of time and whether even you could speed that up, time will tell. So to finish off, let's get the music icon that was under the star card that you chose to come to this reading. And you've got, wow, Janis Joplin. So again, Janis Joplin, Billie Holiday, that's the soul. You know, you have such a soul. Like underneath everything, whatever it is that you're doing, I just keep coming back to music and of course this is a music icon, so that's going to double down on that anyway. But there's such soul to what you do, and it's so unique and it's so ahead of its time. What does Janis suggest to you? What is her advice at this point? She says, evolve, but don't compromise. You're all you've got. Now, that's absolutely the energy of this. Evolve, but don't compromise. Just make sure you have your escape clauses when you need it. The power of love must replace the love of power. Well, there you go. So, because there's something about power that you're going to be dealing with as well too. Whether it's in creative work or whether it's in some other work, there is something about power. And you are far greater than the sum of your fears. So yes, don't have fear. Believe what you can do. And don't be your own self-critic too much. Allow yourself. You really are the wizard. I keep coming back to that. The strongest card of all of the ones at the beginning I felt was the wizard. There is something about you that is magical. And allow that magic to come out in whatever form it is. And you will absolutely find your star power. So I hope that was enjoyable. I hope it resonates for you, Pile 1. And if so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you do know what some of this is, it's really interesting energy. So I'd be fascinated to hear about it in the comments below. Otherwise, I hope to see you in the next reading. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So these were some of the cards under the star card that you chose to come to this reading. And it's meant to give us a bit of a sense right from the beginning about what your star qualities are and how they might manifest. You're someone who's really about relationships. You're somebody who may either be an archetypal figure in some way that represents love and the challenges of love in some way, or the matchmaking of love in some way, or the romance of love in some way. Because we've got star-crossed here. We have Whitney Wolfe Herd, who is an entrepreneur and a CEO, so you may well do this in an organisational context, but she was behind social and dating apps and Tinder and things like that. So really that connection about love and other people and social networks and social influencing. Then we have Joan Collins, who is an actress, and her sister was the writer, who also talked about love and so forth. But Joan was very much is very much, I think she's still with us. I think both of them are still with us. Somebody who is symbolic of sort of glamour and movies and love and romance and all of those sort of things. And then we have the star-crossed here. So some of you may literally be performers or social influencers in some way around relationship. That's possible. If that's not the case, or if that's not what you aim to be, then there's something still about relationship for you, and there's something in the kind of beauty, and there could be fashion around you, anything like that with Peach, because Peach is about beauty, comfort and serenity. You may be someone who is way ahead in your field in helping people deal with emotional issues and have an intellectual, with the air thing there, a sort of philosophical, almost therapeutic way of dealing with that, because we also have the Archangel Azrael, which is about death and rebirth and about transitions and life changes, with Jet, which is also about rebirth and changes in life. So for some of you, your star quality might be taking people through the changes and the transformations in their life in some way that unlocks emotional things for them. And whether that is because you are a star in some form of social influence or some form of therapeutic world or something like that, or whether you're an actor who plays particular parts that really open up the heart of people and makes them understand changes and so forth, a kind of Meryl Streep sort of energy to it. Whatever it may be, there is something that is connecting those two things. Your star quality is about your really, really sharp understanding of love, both on an emotional level, but also on a communication level in some way, and a presentational level, and a capacity to make people feel comfortable even in difficult times, but also to go through change. So it's possible with some of you that you may almost be seen as being sort of a romantic icon or something like that, and almost superficial, and you aren't superficial at all with this sort of energy. But I think once people get to know you a bit more and they see how the changes that you go through and how you become a role model for people, then they realize that isn't the case. It does have a little bit of a dual personality energy to it here, and one area, but the processing of it is around the theory and the application of love. So it's about, you are a symbol in some way of the transformation and the evolution through love and through connection and through maybe the electronic sort of area. So I do think many of you may be on social media or influences in some way, or on the silver screen, that kind of energy. If you aren't, then maybe you're going to run an organization that has that kind of connection, or as I say, you're a therapist in some way. But there's something very larger than life about you as well. But underneath there's these depths, there is a purpose to what you're doing, pile 2. So that's very interesting. So let's use the tarot and ask where you're up to at the moment in your star journey. Okay, so this is telling me, the reason I think that we've got this sort of death and rebirth sort of energy around this is that you've gone through some sort of transformation around this. You may be someone who came across a twin flame, for instance, and you've been dealing with the really in-depth change and transformation that comes from that sort of journey, potentially. Or you've had issues potentially even from your childhood and the patterns that you've seen in your family that have caused you some degree of anxiety and so forth, and you're still working through some of that. It does look to me that for some of you, you are very strongly connected to your childhood and your family, but there's some guilt or issue around it that you're trying to process. It may be that you feel you were ahead of your family in some way, or maybe you saw star-crossed sort of energy with your parents or siblings in their relationships or something. There's something where part of your real in-depth understanding about relationships comes from a sense of anxiety, guilt. And it isn't necessarily your guilt, it might be guilt that you've observed or something unresolved from the past. So there's definitely something there, and you have a very strong sense of what is just, what is right, and so forth, and a really incredibly strong mind in a capacity to communicate that and bring resolution. So even there, if you look at it, that is kind of the pattern that I'm seeing there. It's starting looking at, the star-crossed, the difficult relationship, the energy that isn't fully coming to what it needs to be because there's something that needs to be brought into balance. This is done through understanding the theory and bringing peace of mind. You are very, very intellectual. What you bring, no matter, I think many of you people will think you're all about love and you're all about that, and they don't understand how deep your philosophical and almost academic understanding of this is, and maybe the journey that you've been through as well to get there. Like, there is a lot of heft beneath your understanding of human nature and how that pertains to love. But because you sort of come across as comforting and so forth, and possibly through some sort of influencer sort of role, people don't realise that depth until they've gone through the process with you. You could be someone who becomes incredibly well known for taking people through some sort of a process or a framework to resolve emotional issues on a kind of therapeutic level or spiritual level. That's possible with those sort of energies as well. This also suggests at the moment that there could be a contract or opportunity around you. So that looks good. It looks good, but it looks like you're really trying to sort out whether it's going to be what you want it to be, what you don't want to be. You understand not to get caught in things that aren't right for you. You understand you need to have that sort of transitional sort of energy. But it does look like you're in a strong position, and that you can find the way through again with the way you think things through to have peace of mind. So whatever this is, if you are looking at starting a company, for instance, then I think that you have what you need in your kit bag. You've maybe had some opportunities that didn't work out before, but you're moving into a better phase now. And the more that you take control of it and you make sure that it has the energy around it that is right for your philosophy, the more you come into peace of mind around it. So let's ask for some further information on that, any clarification about or advice that Spirit might give around really manifesting this, which I think really shows you're ready to move into something fairly significant in whatever level of your stardom you are looking to pursue, and in whatever form and at whatever level that is. Okay, so this is saying, if we look at it, we've got the Two of Cups reverse clarifying the Nine of Swords to start with. It does suggest that some of your understanding about relationships has been a bit hard one. I do think for many of you, you've gone through a fairly significant relationship that you don't feel entirely comfortable about as you came out of it. And part of that is there was a vision that you had probably from when you were very young about who you wanted to be in a relationship, and I feel like for some reason you weren't able to fully be that. So I think part of this energy around it is you questioning almost your own understanding of these things. But what you need to realize with the Queen of Wands the right way up here is that you have learned what you needed to learn from that. You have got some real, as I say, heft beneath the surface, which looks very glamorous and looks very, very romantic. Beneath all that, there is actual real depth and a real sense of self-actualization and understanding, but it's come from a disappointment in some way, and you have gone through your own death and rebirth around your love nature, whether you're aware of it or not. Spirit is saying that you need to think about who you want to be in the longer term around this, because you are meant to be the magician, you are meant to be the CEO potentially, or the entrepreneur, you are meant to be the star. There is somebody around you in whatever this is who's competing with you, and they really like to be the center of attention. Actually, they don't want someone else to be on the stage, so to speak. So there's something there, and you're a bit of a threat to them. And if they're connected to this contract, there could be some issues around the money, the sharing of money around it. So if it's a collaborator, be a bit careful. Be aware that they're actually in competition with you. And it doesn't mean you can't go forward, because again, we have the peace of mind here. But it's almost like you have to balance off what you're trying to achieve and who gets the credit for it, because the Six of Wands is reversed here. So it could be that you decide that you will go into some sort of partnership at this point, because it does take what you need to do forward, but you almost have to suppress some of your star quality to deal with the demands of another person and to share the money. The other side of it is whether you decide, no, I won't go into that because that is too much of a cost for what I want to do. And I think Spirit is saying it's okay either way, because remember, we have the Six of Swords. It's like once you work something out intellectually, you're comfortable with it. But I do think it suggests that partnerships will always be, you really got to think about partnerships, because you really are the magician, and it's not often that you're going to have, and this is not a romantic partnership I'm talking about, this is like a business partnership of some form. You are not likely to find many other magicians. That means that there will be people who want something from you in some way, and if their ego is really on the line, that could delay the recognition and the stardom that you could get, or delay some of the longer term security in what you're doing. So I think that Spirit is saying, don't underestimate yourself legally and how you position yourself around things and your capacity to be the CEO, the entrepreneur. But equally, you are able to sort this out with that air energy under there, and with your capacity to transmute intellectual and emotional pain into understanding yourself and self-actualizing. Then you can work this out. But there is an issue around that Spirit wants you to be aware of. And if you don't know who that is right now, it may be that it's something coming in the next 3, 6, 12 months around as opportunities happen for you. So just be careful. I don't think it's saying don't do it. I just think it's saying make sure you're in a strong position if you do. Okay, so let's have a bit of a look with a couple of decks that are around personal characteristics about what your fan base might be in whatever form this is. You know, you don't have to be a performer. You don't have to have followers on social media, though I think many of you may. But it's just what are the sort of characteristics of the sort of people that are drawn to your star quality. And you might recognize some of these people, but I'm really thinking much more around demographics here, types of people, and what that means in terms of what you do. Okay, so firstly, we've got lots of colours. So colourful people like you, and you are quite colourful to them. They think there's something really exciting and dramatic and interesting around you. But it's an interesting combination of colours, because firstly we have green, heart, healer, harmony, wealth. There are people who will follow you, who are drawn to you because you really do know your stuff in this space and you really help them heal their heart. So if that's your mission statement, and I think on some levels it is, you're absolutely going to draw the right people to you to do that. Some of them are going to be a little bit more conservative and neutral around what you do. So sometimes what you do may seem a little bit out there to them. So just be aware that some of the people, you know, for instance, if you were running some sort of workshops around healing the heart and so forth, you may find that some people are a little bit harder to shift if there's something new or different you want them to try. But they're very dependable. They're going to be there for you. So don't sort of push them away. Understand that the part of what you're doing here is helping people who do get a bit stuck, who do get a bit conservative about what they do, so that they can get to what is really passionate for them and what really gets to who they are at a base level, at who they really are. But beige and red, if you think about it, and the sort of energies there, some of the people who follow you will be a bit slower to get with the program, so to speak. But they do want this, so don't and they probably do need quite a bit of heart healing because of that. We have the rooster, which is Chinese astrology. I'm not a Chinese astrology expert, so if you want, look up what roosters' characteristics are, because that may tell you something about the sort of energy of some of your followers. I certainly get a sense with the term rooster that they like to be out there and seen in some way, and I think they like that in you. These dates may be important in some way. It may be that you come from the year of the rooster and you draw other people like yourself, or it could be that you know people who were born in some of these times. Maybe that's part of the pack that you run with, so to speak. So that could be it. So just, as I say, there's a number of things. It could also be that years of the rooster are times that will be important to you building your following in some way. So think prospectively, 12 years, every 12 years, the year of the rooster comes on from any of these dates. And then we have Gemini. So you really do attract people who like to be entertained, who like to be persuaded in some way. They like wit, so there's something funny, there's something light about what you do, even though underneath it's very deep. So they're drawn to that. And they like the air energy around you. They like the intellectual side of things. They probably would like to banter with you a bit. They might argue with you a bit. They may appear to take different positions just to be contrary sometimes, but it's because they find that fun. So they like the fun side of it. Okay, let's have a look at some other characteristics of your fan base, either that you have at the moment or to be. Interesting. Okay, so I think fair complexion probably is almost a bit of a mislead in this, in as much as I don't think that skin colour is necessarily going to be the thing, but I think that there might be a play on words here, and I think it may be about fairness. So I think that people who are drawn to you like the fact that you are fair and balanced, and that there is that kind of peace of mind energy that you give to people and the healing energy that you give to people. As to the others, this is interesting. You may draw in a lot of people who have political views. Now, it's interesting we have conservative here. Maybe some of you draw in very conservative political people. That's possible. It's also possible that there's something in the relationship energy that some of you do that isn't romance. It's actually something about social or community issues and so forth. Or it may be just people who have an interest in politics also have an interest in your theories and your healing in some way. People like the culinary arts too, so possibly possibly some of what you do is about healing through food and nutrition and so forth. Or it just might be that if you could see the kind of YouTube profiles of these people, that they watch you for relationships and then they watch lots of cooking channels potentially. There's definitely the sense of humour here. There's something about you, I think, that is quite funny. You're quite clever and witty with what you do, and with the way that you communicate, and all that air energy tells us that, and they have a sense of humour, and I think you bring a sense of humour to things, and that's part of what really makes them follow you. You're quirky, you're different in some way. Okay, so let's have a look at some affirmations for you, and then a bit of timing, and then we're going to finish up with some advice from a music icon. So firstly, let's have a look at some affirmations around your stardom, pile 2. Okay. If your dreams don't scare you a little, they are too small. So do not underestimate yourself. There's something big you went through emotionally, I think, that has really given you the grounding, and you do have that really strong transitional energy. Allow yourself to dream big, because you really do have the prospect of going as large and as much on the world stage if you want, or community stage, whatever it is that you want. Just make sure your dreams are big enough that they scare you a little, so that you go through your own transition and so forth. And remember that we're all together in this. There is something about relationship in this. There's definitely something about relationship in this. And it's why I think Spirit was wanting you to be careful about the people you collaborate with, to understand those dynamics. Because not everybody is going to be coming from the same place as you. But if you can find the people who are, and it's not about ego, and it's not about who's the star, it's about what you're trying to achieve, then you are going to be able to reach your stardom, but you're also going to do it in a way that connects with others, because there's a large chunk of connecting with others and healing energy here. Okay, let's see if there's any guidance that Spirit can give us around timing for your stardom, pile 2. Okay. So I'll go to this first, because I think this connects to where you kind of are at the moment. If you haven't gone through a tricky thing around a relationship, I suspect you will. I don't want to frighten you, but I suspect you will, because it's part of what's going to really give the depth and the transformational energy that you need. Doesn't mean it won't work out, but it just felt a little bit like a twin flame or something like that, which may ultimately work out, but often is quite challenging. So there's something about a hard time that gives you what you need to have. It could also suggest that you hit you routinely in your life and in your stardom, you hit times where you've got the competition from others or other things that make things difficult, because you are always about death and rebirth. You are always about evolving. And if you think about it, implied in that is that, you know, sometimes we'll hit reversals or we'll hit things that don't work, and that's something that pushes us through. There's also something for you in 11 to 12 months that's going to be key. Whether that's the contractual opportunity that I saw for some of you, or whether it's, you know, setting up a social media profile, or whether it's having some political contacts that help you, whatever it might be, there's something in about 11 to 12 months that's going to be key to you moving this forward. Okay, so we're going to finish up with the advice from a music icon for you. Wow, and you've got Maria Callas, so one of the great opera singers. And, you know, great depth and passion to what she did. So that sort of makes sense. It's larger than life too. I mean, all opera singers are larger than life. There is something larger than life about you. There was something larger than life about, well, there is something larger than life about Joan Collins as well. So Maria's advice to you is compromise is the enemy of perfection. Yeah, and that's part of this energy. Like, when do you compromise and when don't you? And like, it's sometimes perfection. You can compromise perfection, but you do need to understand what you're doing. And I think the fact that you have such strong intellectual ability, you'll be able to work that out. She says, befriend your inner serpent. Oh, I like that, given the name of my channel. Befriend your inner serpent. That is your inner wisdom, your inner knowing. There is something very deep about you, and death and rebirth is very Scorpionic as well. So you might be a Scorpio, have Scorpio strongly in your chart, but there's that sense of your inner knowing and your inner wisdom. It's much deeper than you appear on the surface. And it goes, you cannot survive on sensation alone. Exactly, because the heartbeat for you is the transformation, is the depth. Even though I feel a lot of your stardom, at least at first to people, is in how you present yourself, the surface. Once they get to the healing with you, then they really understand the depth of what you bring to something. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 2. I think you've got a really interesting life ahead and stardom ahead if it does. I hope it's helpful. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you do know what this is all about, love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 3, to your reading. So these cards were under the star card that you chose to come to this reading, and they're to give a bit of a snapshot of your star quality. We'll then have a look at how it's operating at the moment and who your followers might be and so forth. I would say on some level you're meant to be a bit of an icon, I have to say, an icon of your age, someone who's very, very strong. Your personality and what you bring to the table is very, very strong and very powerful, particularly in the sort of divine feminine side of things. There's a lot of feminine energy around this, but on the other hand, I mean, we do have the balance with Metatron and so forth for the divine masculine as well, but I feel like you don't have to be a woman. It's not about what your gender is or where you fit on the continuum. It's just about that energy, which is around compassion, it's around emotions, love and so forth, but it's expressed in a way that is very unique and that is iconic. Like, there is something iconic about you. Zelda Fitzgerald was an icon of the jazz age. So married, of course, to F. Scott Fitzgerald, who wrote The Great Gatsby. So it's that kind. There's an energy around that, around being part of your time. Part of your stardom is that you are absolutely at the right time, you know, for your personality, for your energy and so forth. You can epitomise that in whatever level and wherever you are, you epitomise that. And we've also got Rihanna, which is that energy of creativity, of music, and sort of being strong and powerful within again, your expression of yourself. You're meant to be a queen. You do have a cause in some way with the Knight there. There's a message behind what you're bringing, and that connects also to the Archangel Metatron. You're very dialed in spiritually, so what you're bringing is coming at exactly the right time for exactly the right reason, and you are meant to represent it in some way. Your personality will be very, very strong. People will definitely see you when you come in a room, and it doesn't really matter what level this is, whether you're like an icon at your college, for instance, for being sort of, you know, a leader in some sort of a social movement there, or whether you're the CEO of a multinational company eventually because you personally represent it. Like, I get the sort of sense, I'm just trying to think of her name, there's a particular fashion icon who's really well known, and I think she was the one that they said was The Devil Wears Prada was based on. I can't think of her name off the top of my head. If it comes to me, I'll say, but you'll probably know who I'm talking about. Very iconic sort of figure, represents fashion, for instance. Or you may represent a literary tradition or a new way of doing things, a kind of J.K. Rowling who became iconic around fantasy. And in fact, there is some sort of energy around that. The other energy I got when I looked at this was also something like the Mother of Dragons from the Game of Thrones, this sort of iconic figure, this leader in some way. That's who you're meant to be. And you're getting energy straight from the source. The scribe of the source. Archangel Metatron, amongst other things, is the scribe for the divine. It's like the character who writes the stories, who writes the big characters, who's the main character, and you are the main character in whatever it is that you're doing. Absolutely. So that's part of it. You're the queen. And the night side of it, I think, is the cause. But the cause has got to do with love in some way and relationship in some way, because you've got lavender, which is compassion, empathy, and sensitivity, and rose, which is emotions, love, and unity. So it's good in a way that that's there, because otherwise I think you'd be almost overwhelming. Like there's a lot of power coming from you and a lot of knowledge coming from you. But there is also a softness. There is also a capacity to make it glamorous rather than frightening, to make it musically harmonious rather than just fighting a cause and just being the queen in some way. So really interesting energy. You are meant to be an icon on some level, and whether you do that through social media or through being on the stage or being a CEO or whatever, it doesn't really matter. You are meant to be really seen, and probably most of you who've come here haven't quite got there yet, though some of you might have, and good on you if you have. But I think that's the trajectory for you. It's part of the narrative of your life. It's part of what you are meant to do, because there is something, there's a softness that you're going to bring that is needed in this age for some reason. Okay, so no pressure on you. Let's see with tarot where you are in the journey of getting your stardom. Okay, so firstly, I think the Empress over here is picking up this sort of divine, feminine, iconic thing. So it's definitely saying that you're starting to awaken to who you could be. Interestingly enough, maybe following a relationship of some form. It doesn't have to be a love relationship, but it could have been. But some relationship that didn't quite work out the way that you wanted to. You actually outgrew it. That's what I'm getting. There's something around a relationship that you outgrew, because you're meant to be the queen and you're meant to find the king. And again, it's not about gender. If you can just think about it in terms of sort of energies, there's something that you outgrew. You felt lonely, I'd say, in a relationship or around others. You maybe felt you had not found your tribe, and I think it's partly because you're meant to lead a tribe. You're not meant to be just one of the group. You just aren't. Sorry, but you just aren't. So you can sometimes feel a bit alone in that, but I think that you're at a stage where you're starting to really understand that about yourself, and you know there are choices that come from that. Choices about what you do materially, what you do with your career, study, wherever you are in your life at the moment, and also choices about how you present yourself to the world. Because of that iconic energy around you, you can be the artist of your own image if you want to be, but you're at the stage where you're choosing that, and part of what's helping you choose that is understanding what didn't work for you before and how you do have to stand on your own sometimes. It doesn't mean you'll be alone all the time, but it just means you have to do that if you're going to bring in a partner, for instance, eventually, that is right for you, the king to the queen, so to speak. But you're just starting to see this. You're just starting to see the choices that you actually have. You may, in fact, have felt that you didn't. You may have felt, I just don't fit in. Like, everybody's really odd. Like, why don't I fit in? You know, you may think about things very differently and so forth. You have a very, very soft center, and you may have been hurt sometimes because the energy that you come across with, which is so powerful, belied this soft center. And so maybe you were hurt because people didn't really understand you, but that was partly so that you understand who you're meant to be, because you are meant to be someone who really stands out, someone who leads something in some way, someone who is an icon for their age in some way. And think about it, Zelda Fitzgerald actually had to struggle quite a lot. She struggled within her relationship and around that sort of thing. It wasn't necessarily an easy energy around it. But I do think for you, you have the capacity to deal with that. So it's more, I think, that card came up to show an icon of an age. You are exactly the right person for the age that you are going into, the age where you will become seen. So let's ask for a little bit more clarification and advice from Spirit about your stardom. Okay. So the Page of Wands is clarifying the Two of Pentacles. So there's something deeply creative that is coming, that is bringing these opportunities for you. You have to choose opportunities materially that are going to let your firebird out, your creative energy out. Pages are always, they've gone through the Ace to the 10, so you've developed a lot creatively. Wherever you are in your life, you've developed a lot about who you are going to be and so forth. You've nurtured that, but now you make choices about what that looks like what is going to really inspire you. That's the thing to ask when you are looking at what opportunities are around you. What inspires you? That's the thing that will lead you towards what you need to do, because you're meant to be the magician. You're meant to break yourself out of the limitations that you've had before and feeling alone. Like feeling alone made you feel a bit stuck. I think you felt, I'm just so out of sync with everybody. And you probably, if that's the case and you're still there, you're thinking, well, how can I be an icon? I don't fit in. The reality is that icons are always the wave of the future, and you are the wave of the future, and there will be a timing where that comes together and you become the icon. So breaking yourself out of that sense that you have to belong, because that just straitjackets the thing that you're meant to be born, meant to be bringing out. You're meant to be the magician. So when you're making those decisions about creativity, it's what makes you feel that you can lead. What brings all the skills and knowledge that you have together in a way that makes you feel, I have everything that I need. This is how you make the decisions. If a choice about how you present yourself or a material choice doesn't inspire you and make you feel in control, it's not the right choice. That's how you decide. Because if you don't make the right choice there, you keep yourself trapped in this sense of having to be like others. You're not meant to be like others. You're meant to be the next wave. And I think that some of you, with this difficult relationship, it has been around power in some way. It has been around who was going to be boss. It could have been with your father, potentially with the Emperor. There might have been some tension there for some of you around who were you going to be in the world and how were you going to express yourself. But it could also have been with authority figures or even in a workplace. So I suspect that part of this will be liberating yourself from whatever that energy is, owning your own Empress to the Emperor. You're meant to be that. It's also, I think, telling me on a double level that eventually you will move to the Emperor. You will move to your divine counterpart, but not till you've sort of moved out of this sort of thing. And it will come through an unconventional way. It's not... Probably whoever you partner with, people will think that's really strange because, again, you're ahead of your time, and the Hierophant, you're bringing in something spiritually, but not through traditional ways. So again, you come into your power by following your own narrative really strongly. Okay, very interesting energy. So let's use some cards to have a look at who your fans might be, the sort of personality and fans following, whatever it might be, again, at whatever level it is. This is meant to be kind of demographical, the type of people that are drawn to you, the type of people who see you as a star. You might occasionally see in this people that you know, in which case that's fine, but I'm really looking mainly at demographical sort of information. Okay, this is an interesting group of cards. So I'll go here for South America. You may come from South America, one of the South American countries, Or there may be a particular fan base or following that might be sort of something that comes out of that culture that particularly connects with you and connects with your energy and so forth. Or you just might have a particular following in South America. They may really love it. They may be ahead of their time also, and they recognise you before others on some sort of cultural change level that you bring in. Your followers are not necessarily ones that want to show themselves to the rest of the world. There's something about them that they protect. There's something about themselves that they kind of mask a bit. I think it may be because they've been through similar things to you. They've felt different. They felt disconnected in some way. So they are protective of that, and they'll be very protective of you. They may also be into the outdoors. There might be sort of something in what you do that has that sort of nature sort of side of it. They are going to respond to your caring nature, absolutely. They think you're poetic. They think your energy is tender for all that it's really, really full on. They really see you as someone who cares about them and cares about what might have been broken or that they felt that they had to hide in some way. There's something in your energy that supports and draws to you those who felt that they didn't fit in. It's part of what you do because you show them a way to do that and a way to love themselves. They'll be very faithful to you, I think, with the dog Chinese astrology energy. There may be particular sort of age groups that are drawn to you based on those birth years, or it could be that you find new followers in years of the dog. So you always think of 12 years on and so forth as being particular points in your career or your stardom or your presence in the world. Sagittarius suggests that there's a very philosophical side to them as well too. This is the Archangel Metatron energy that they're reacting to you, that spiritual side of things, the fact that there is depth underneath the surface and they can see that and they think you're really brave and they're brave. Like, it's interesting, they do feel that they've had to keep a bit hidden, but there's something about you and something about what you represent that makes them feel that they can almost come out and be seen in some way and to be brave and to be free in some way. So that's really exciting. I really like the energy of this. I feel like you're not only going to be an icon, but you're going to help a lot of people. So let's have a look at what other demographic information we can get from another pack. Okay, that doesn't surprise me. Okay, so when we get things that are like complexion or whatever in this, I feel like, it could be an individual. You could have an individual that fits these sort of things. That's one of your early followers and believers that has a tan complexion. I think beyond that, it may be connecting to the South America sort of side of things, or it just might be that in this case, it's the sense of diversity. There's a diversity to what you bring in, and that is also shown with the LGBTQT. So you definitely are saying something true and compassionate and loving to people who come from all sorts of different backgrounds. And some of them have obviously over time, hopefully less and less, feel that they have to kind of protect themselves and hide away. But we really would hope that that becomes less and less of an issue and that people feel more and more happy to be open about that and to feel validated in every single way, because they absolutely should be. But I think you will have a following around that, around how that you can see and be a icon for diversity and acceptance and inclusion. There may be something about what you do that has to do with games in some way. Maybe you are very skillful in games. Maybe you create a game, an online game that actually really brings these sorts of energies in, or you create a diversity sort of workshop or something like that. They're very clever. Like, your followers are very clever because you're very clever with all that air energy. So there's that side of things for you as well too, because like Archangel Metatron is like air. It's like the swords energy and so forth in the tarot. But interestingly enough, it went over the swords coming up there, which is how you kind of kept yourself, because of your cleverness, you kept yourself trapped when you felt you had to be like others. When you realise that you don't, how you play the game to be out of that, then you can actually disconnect from that and you can bring in the people who really see the genius in what you're doing. And they are skillful too. You are very skillful at what you do, but you attract people who really, really are skillful, that really do have a lot to offer. So there's potentially great collaborators for you as time goes on as well. But yeah, you attract a very diverse and very clever and very switched on and ahead of their time type of following. All right. Let's have a look at some affirmations for you about your stardom and then some timing before we close out with some advice from a music icon. So firstly, some affirmations for you at this stage. Okay. So firstly, it's mostly about peeling away everything that isn't really you. That's the energy that I saw at the beginning. That's the process you're going through. The butterfly is a really good symbol for that. You are transforming to become who you are. And as you do that and you're your own guide, that creates the iconic energy. That creates the thing that other people will follow, and you will be a guide to others. But they're very clever people. So it's not like you're creating a dependency. I don't think you would want to create a dependency. I think you would want to create a tribe of self-actualized people. And by being your own guide and being true to who you are, that's how you become this icon. Okay, let's have a look at some timing. Okay, so there's something about when you really start to be seen that's going to be unexpected. So it sort of gives a sense of, for instance, somebody who is a social influencer on YouTube and they're sort of slowly building a thing and then suddenly, bam, they go viral. Or there's something new that you bring in, you create a song, for instance, that suddenly is sort of number one everywhere. But there's something unexpected and opportunities will come that are unexpected. And what it is saying is that's good, but always allow yourself to press pause. If things are coming in too fast, and I do get the sense for some of you that once the ball starts to roll, it really rolls fast. So it is okay to press pause and really consider about, is this true to who you are? Are you always being true to who you are? And where, going back to your source, your narrative, to what you are here to do. Don't be frightened of that. It's not, you're destined to be a star in some way, in whatever form and whatever level you want it to be. That's not in question, really. So you aren't going to lose anything by pressing pause, particularly if you find a lot of things happen very quickly and you're not sure yet what that means for who you're trying to be. So let's see what music icon we have to finish off with some advice. Oh, God. Lady Gaga. Okay. Swear to God, I didn't know that was there. I don't know what these cards are, but how perfect is that? The LGBTQ, the sense of connecting with the people who felt different, and the Rihanna energy. And she is such an icon about diversity and about acceptance. So absolutely perfect energy around you, I believe. So really, really good sort of role model. But be yourself. Don't be Lady Gaga. It's just that sort of energy around you. Her advice to you is turn bad romance into good business. So if that energy under there was a bad romance that actually made you realize something about yourself and being how to be the queen or the leader, then use that. Use that energy. It's part of your creative and personality growth process. She says exaggerate your contradictions. Interesting. So that may also be what is different, and what is different within you as well as what is different between you. Might be why you get such diversity following you. And she says, become the star you were born to be. Yeah, because you were. You were absolutely born to be a star. So I'm sorry, I don't know if that actually came up. It looked like something jumped up on my screen. Hopefully it didn't come up for you, but if so, I'm sorry about that. It was just a piece of advice from my computer. But I think if it did, maybe it was just really the computer trying to agree that you're meant to be a star. So I hope that this has resonated for you. I think you're the sort of person that's needed in the world, and I think that you'll bring a lot of good to the world, and I think you're here at the right time for the right reason. So I hope you enjoyed the reading, and I hope that it does connect for you. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you do know what this is, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.